Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Traci Scheepstra and welcome to Body Talk. Every week, Embody Learnings brings you Body Talk to talk about something we find very important, which is bringing the body into the school curriculum and into the elementary classroom. We think this is so important because bringing the body into the classroom really supports student learning, student engagement, mental health and wellness, and thriving classrooms and a thriving school community. Today, we have a really special topic with a special guest. And I'd like to introduce to you a dear friend of mine, Nicki Irwin. Hey, Nicki, so good to have you here today.
Hi, Trace. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. Really looking forward to talking about something I'm passionate about. So thank you.
Well, I am really excited about this topic, but before we get into it, will you just share with our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My fitness journey started at least 25 to 30 years ago. I initially started working in a gym setting in a recreational complex, supervising the gym, assisting people with their workouts, and doing fitness assessments and training. I progressed from there. I did some fitness competitions. I was doing my own training, and I decided to move out on my own. And I have my own yoga studio and personal training studio. And so I can continue to work as a movement coach and help people feel better in their bodies.
So I met you, I guess it was around 20 years ago now, and I had just given birth to my son. And I had been dancing for a number of years and had a lot of injuries. And I remember when I came to you, I was looking for something different because dance just wasn't, well, one, it was just really difficult to fit it into my life, but also I found that I was just re-injuring all the time. And I remember starting your yoga classes, and that for me felt like dancing, but in a really safe way. And of course, over the years, you've really seen me through, well, many injuries, lots of healing, but also just really helped me on my own path, where I got into my body in really new and profound ways through both yoga, personal training, and just all the conversations that we've had around the body and the importance of caring for our body, as well as, you know, routine, which is what we're going to be talking about. So I just knew that when we decided that we really wanted to talk about routines and rituals in terms of going back to school, that you were the person that I just had to interview because of my relationship with you, but also just the wealth of knowledge that you have around this particular topic. So,
Right.
yeah. And of course, you know, you have really seen the impact in terms of, you know, structure versus unstructure in terms of what we've recently gone through. But before we get to that, I actually really want to talk about just the body and why it is so much an integral part of, you know, routine and ritual, and just sort of how it can support mental health and wellness. Anything that you can, you know, speak to in regards to sort of just the benefits of routines.
Mhm. I believe routines are great for everybody, from young children right up to, middle-aged seniors. They provide so much structure, and structure is good. Sets the tone for, your week, your day, and I believe that helps you to feel productive. You feel a sense of accomplishment when you have a routine, whatever that may be, and you get it done. If you have a checklist, check it off your list. It's just something to be said about productivity, feeling confident, feeling the sense of accomplishment. So I think it's a great thing for everybody. It's a great way to start your day, having some sort of routine, whatever that is, whether it's movement, mindfulness, you know, cold showers.
Right. Yes, absolutely. And for those who are wondering why we're laughing, you and I have been doing this challenge now. I think I'm on day 30. I'm in the 30s, you know, where we've been doing, you know, a minimum of 4 minutes of cold, like freezing cold showers as a way to awaken the body and really support sort of the metabolism and just the healing of the body in various ways. So yes, lots of things that we can do to create sort of those benefits.
I think,
Um,
sorry,
no,
I
go
think with the routines, it's also nice to have that structure for a period of time, but also take a little break once in a while from your routine so that you can really feel grateful for the benefits that they do offer.
Right.
Because unless you're away from them, once you've been at them for a while, you kind of get lost and forget about, the real good feeling, the good vibes that you get from whatever your routine is that you're doing. So I think it's balance, right? We talked about balance, having the routine, but also having a little break, a short break from the routine.
So that's a really good point, because I know that sometimes I can get into a routine and it starts to get really dull and boring. I kind of lose my motivation. And by taking those breaks, I get really excited to come back because I realize just how good I feel when I'm doing it. But
Absolutely.
sometimes I have to shake it up. Like I can't do the same thing every day. That's why it's nice to maybe go out and walk in nature or lift weights or do yoga, or again, maybe it's something much more restorative, but it's still, something that really supports my body and feeling good inside.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You mentioned why the body is important to, be a part of our routine.
Mhm.
And I think that it's an integral part because the brain, anytime your body is moving, your nervous system is incorporated in it. There's chemicals that are released from your brain when you're moving. So that whole mind-body connection just lends itself to so many benefits, mentally, physically, emotionally, and we'll get into that as we keep going in our chat.
Yeah, for sure. So one thing we've really noticed, sort of this particular in the last 6 months, more than probably any time that we can think of in sort of our history of the time that we've been, growing up, is that there's been this huge sort of disconnect between, sort of structure and routine, particularly for children because they've been out of school. And even when they were learning online, it wasn't the same as sort of getting up and going somewhere and, being in a place for a certain period of time and then coming home. It was just kind of on the fly, sitting in front of a computer, learning in a different way with teachers that were trying to figure it out at the same time. So maybe you can talk about sort of, again, some of the issues or the things that you saw that were really detrimental to being in such a state of unstructure.
Sure. I did notice that with the children not being in school for such an extended time, like we're talking from March to September, parents are working, kids are at home, some online, some not online, only for a short period of time. The rest of the time, they're either on the TV, on technology, playing video games. Because of the situation with COVID, we weren't allowed outside. You weren't allowed to socialize outside, right? So you couldn't play with your friends or your family. So that, you were stuck inside. If your parents are busy, the kids have free for all for the kitchen and the food, snacks. So with so much sitting, eating kind of not the healthy food, unstructured diets, unfortunately, there's also weight gain with the children and decreased fitness levels.
Right. Yeah. And you've also shared with me recently how you've noticed with some of your clients, whether they be adults or younger people you work with, that you've started to notice issues with their posture. Maybe again, watching a lot of technology, right? Yeah. Like,
yeah, the neck, the forward head.
And I absolutely, so there's so many things that we're not actually even thinking about that have consequences because of the things that we've been going through. So ways in which, people have managed through this time, and, again, the impact that can have on the body and well-being. So now we have students that are kind of going back into school, whether they're in the school in person or they're doing online learning, and parents are making choices about what's best for their family.
Right.
And so what's really important is thinking about how do we start to sort of bring routine back into our life. And what's really important when we're thinking about that, and again, making sort of the body a big focus of those routines, what are some things that, you have been thinking about that would really support, teachers and our parents who are listening to start thinking about, that process again?
Um, I think that the routines um, are super beneficial because gives you the structure, but also provides safety. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
The sense of safety,
Mhm.
because everybody's been in this unknown situation. You have your routine, it gives you that feeling of what comes next.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
things that we can do for routines could be a walk outside in nature, it could be a movement practice, it could be mindfulness, meditation. There's a number of things that parents can incorporate with their children, adults can do, kids can do, teachers can do with the children as well. Want to keep in mind that we don't want to make it super skill oriented, because we want it to be accessible for everybody. We want the kids to have fun and to have positive beliefs, positive values about movement and about routines.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. So it's something that, works for all, is what you're saying. So we need, students to, that's the other thing is, right, it's also all about buy-in, because I find that, a lot of the way in which movement is introduced in schools is, okay, you've got your, recess. So, but not all students move during recess. A lot kind of like to just hang out and chat, or which is going to be different now with social distancing. So that's going to be one issue, but, or it's, going and doing a gym class, which may only be twice a week for a very short amount of time. And the expectation is that you may be playing a sport. I know there's community games, but again, that doesn't necessarily serve the interest of all children. And we really want to create a love of movement, a love of being in our bodies and sort of having that connection with our bodies, because that's self-care. That's, that's really where we can sort of serve our well-being, and, when we have that mind-body connection. So that's sort of what I hear you saying.
Right, and things that you could do, quote unquote, for movement. Like maybe not everybody knows, well, what is movement? What is a movement practice?
Mhm.
We're talking about it not being skill oriented like a sport per se. Movement could be something as simple as working with the joints,
Mm,
rotating the joints. It could be just simple as finger stretching,
right.
stretching parts of the body. It can be a unstructured, we're talking so much about structure, but an unstructured flow or dance movement
Mm,
where it
right.
doesn't have to be any specific kind of dance. It's move your body to, if you have some music on,
Yeah.
to whatever beat you're hearing or feeling. There's no right or wrong,
Yeah.
right? Another thing I like to do with adults and children, fairly simple. How many ways can you get onto the floor and get off of the floor without using your hands?
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And these are things that you can throw in at different parts of the day. And that's a thing too that, I think is really important for, teachers to recognize, is that students actually need to take breaks. After about 20 minutes of sitting and being focused, their brain starts to shut off. They get tired. So there's perfect opportunities to say, let's just take a brain break. And we're going to, spend some time, like you said, moving unstructured, or just rolling our wrists and our shoulders, or just to awaken the body,
We've
or
done that.
shaking.
Body.
Yeah.
And it can be as easy as 6 minutes, 6 minutes, 8 minutes, so it doesn't disrupt their learning schedule.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so, something that I talk a lot about, and, is, again, you can, it can be about creating sort of a morning ritual, sort of how you start your day. Right. So they come in and they have this expectation of, when we start our morning, we always do this particular warm up, or we always do this mindfulness exercise. I know that through the day, my teacher is going to stop when we need those breaks so that we can move our bodies. we will have recess, we might have gym today, and then, they could close with something too. So, I mean, a lot of the things you're saying, it's just so simple to
Mhm.
kind of put in and have these moments.
Yeah, and I think all of us, we may start out great in the morning, partway through the day, something doesn't go quite right, and
Mhm.
our day is set off. So
Yes,
the movement breaks that are offered throughout the day might rebalance, 3, 4 children, one child, just to realign or reset them from whatever might have come up or went bad, you
mm,
know, and not even knowing, it would combat that little bit of anxiety or stress that we may
absolutely.
be feeling. But
And with social distancing, I think there's this feeling from, some educators that I've spoken with. It's like, how do you do that? But you don't necessarily actually have to move around the space to move in your body. A lot of it we can do sitting in a chair at our table or desk, or just standing beside it. And then when you talked about nature, we can get students outside and give them a big space where they can still have the space between them so that they're in their own personal space, but then they still can have the freedom to actually physically move more, like travel, sort of put in those locomotor movements.
right, for the space that you don't have indoors in the classroom.
Yeah, yeah. And I know for you, you're somebody that gets outside all year round. So I really hope that teachers will do that as well. Regardless of the weather, that they will take advantage of the outdoors, because it's so important as well to be out there in all weather, and to breathe easy, right? Because when the students are outdoors, from my understanding, they can actually take their masks off. And so what a perfect opportunity to just really breathe in that fresh air and take in some vitamin D from the sun and be able to move.
I actually walked through this morning when I was walking the dogs, a schoolyard,
Mhm.
and it was so nice. I said, "Is that kids I hear?" I was walking the
Yeah.
dogs, and I'm like, it's past, the time when school starts. And I got through the schoolyard, and when I got into the open space, there was a class outside, whether it was gym or whatever, I don't know, but they were spaced out and they were playing and they didn't have masks on. Um, they had to have been easily the age of 10 or 11, just judging by the size of them. And I was just thinking to myself, wow, freedom.
Yeah.
It's so nice to just even see them out there playing, moving without the masks, having fun.
Absolutely. That's how I felt when the playgrounds are opened as well. And finally, children were doing what they love, which is climbing and
Children did.
hanging and, yeah, doing all of those wonderful things. So, well, we are almost out of time, but I wanted to just ask you about any final sort of tips or ideas that you might be able to share with us before we say goodbye.
Right. I think in closing, routines take practice, like any new skill or task. Um, and if we practice our routines enough, they end up becoming habits,
Mm,
which become easier,
yeah,
not so challenging. Motivation is what gets you going, and habits is what keeps you going.
mhm.
So, I have this little thing I like to say, your health is in your habits.
Mm, yes, very
So
nice.
hopefully, the teachers start implementing more little routines within their day, and that their movement routines, um, for the kids.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thanks so much, Nikki. It was just a joy to speak with you today and have you part of Body Talk.
Thank you so much, Trace. Glad to be here.
And I'll make sure that if anyone is interested in contacting you and speaking with you further about any of these things, we'll make sure to share your website and your social media links as well with them. And I just want to say thank you very much to all of our viewers for watching today. Again, if you are not familiar with Body Learnings, you can go to our website at www.embodiedlearnings.com. We would love for you to subscribe to our newsletter, where we have weekly newsletters, free resources, and there is so much on our website you can access that will really support you and your students in the classroom. Until next week, thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye.